All right, today is September 1st, 2022. Welcome to East Hampton Village Board Meeting. If we could stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. So, this is our September work session, and these work sessions, which will be the first Thursday of each month, will be held at a different historic location throughout the village. So this month, we're doing, obviously, Village Hall, and we'll have Hugh King tell us about the history of this building that we're in, and then we're going to ask our village clerk to tell the public what is currently used for and what goes on in the building. So, and we'll do that at each location as we do each month. So we're going to do, next month will be the Hedges Inn, which will be October 6th, I believe. So. You?
Ready?
Ready?
Can I go over here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the Beecher Hand House. This house was built about 1720, we don't know by whom, but it was built for Dr. Samuel Hutchinson, the first doctor, we think, in East Hampton. It was inherited by his son, Eli Hutchinson, about 1740. Now, Eli Hutchinson is the one who sold it to Lyman Beecher in 1799. We have the deed out there where Eli Hutchinson is selling it to Reverend Beecher. It's hanging out in the lobby. Okay? Okay. Now, the Beecher family lived here until 1811, and then he left. Then it was sold to the Hand family, and they were here for a long time. And a lot of the additions onto the house were built by the Hand family. Then the Hand family sells it to Sally Ball, a real estate agent. Then she sells it to Donald Claus, who wanted to have the building rezoned for 3 offices. That didn't happen. And then the village of East Hampton came here. Now, this building is so important for what happened here and for what didn't happen here. First of all, Roxana Beecher, the wife of Lyman Beecher, ran a boarding school in this building. She taught higher English, and I can't find out what higher English was. French, drawing, painting, and embroidery, and also did scientific experiments. Now, women were not encouraged to go to any kind of school like this. The only kind of school they went to was where they did embroidery. None of this other stuff, all right? So it was groundbreaking there. Now, where was the school? The school was where the mayor's office is right now. That was the school building, and there's a fireplace in there, okay? The students, the boarding students, slept in the village administrator's office. There is a fireplace in there, okay? The lobby, when you come in, was the sitting room. There's a fireplace in there. And I believe that the adults slept there at night. Okay? The village attorney's office was where Lyman Beecher wrote his sermons. That was his office. Has the village attorney been writing any sermons? Do you know? No? Has he been accused of it? No, it's not here. Okay. Now, the anti-dueling sermon that Beecher wrote was written in that office. The anti-dueling sermon was used in 1832 against Andrew Jackson. So it became something that was known all over the United States. All right? I think Roxana Beecher's boarding school was probably one of the first ones in East Hampton. Remember, Clinton Academy opened up in 1784, but it was not a boarding school. The students slept in houses up and down the street. Now, Beecher's children became more famous. All of his sons became ministers. Henry Ward Beecher was the most famous minister of the 19th century. And you know, after the Civil War, when they went back to Fort Sumter and they put the flag back up, Henry Ward Beecher was the primary speaker. Catherine Beecher was born in this house. She was an early advocate of education for women, okay? Isabella Beecher Hooker was born in Connecticut. She was an advocate for women's suffrage. And of course, who's the most famous of all?
Harriet.
Harriet Beecher Stowe, okay? But here's what happens. Lyman Beecher comes here. There are no stores in East Hampton, so he had to send to the city to get his furniture. So he had bills of $400 or $500 built up. His salary was $400, but he got his firewood cut, and he had a pasturage land. Well, now it's about 1810. He's complaining. He tells the trustees who are running the church. The town trustees used to run the church. All right, I have $500 worth of bills. Can you help me pay them? And I need a raise for my salary. And the trustee said, well, if you promise not to ask for any more money any other time, we'll give it to you. Well, he couldn't promise that. Now remember, the first 3 ministers settled here for 50 years apiece almost. So he's only here 10 years. So he leaves. He goes to Litchfield, Connecticut. That's where Harriet was born. Then he goes to Cincinnati. And that's where Harriet sees slavery. And she goes back to New England and writes Uncle Tom's Cabin, one of the most influential books ever written in the 19th century. Now just think how history would have been changed if the people in East Hampton had given Beecher more money. He could have stayed here. They wouldn't have gone to Connecticut. He wouldn't have gone to Ohio. She may not have written the book. So history was changed by something that didn't happen here, all right? And then the last thing, what other interesting things, there was a post office built right next door by the Hand family. And that building is still standing. It's on Buell's Lane, okay? Also, the Long Island Presbytery, there was a porch built on the front of this place. And the Long Island Presbytery wanted to buy it for aging Presbyterians. That didn't happen. And then the LBIS was contemplating buying this place for $250,000, but it didn't happen. That's all I got.
Very good, thank you. All right. Village clerk?
And my former student.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
5th grade and 6th grade.
Oh.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't start from when we moved here to Village Hall on April 26, 1996. June, do you remember that when we moved here?
Yes.
Yes.
After we lived in the little tiny room over in the
At
firehouse,
1 Cedar
we each
Street.
had one tiny little desk.
Yes. At that point, we had the village administrator, building inspector / fire marshal, and 6 office staff. Currently within the village hall, we have the village administrator and 8 office staff. The building department moved to 88 Newtown. They have 3 building inspectors and a secretary there. Fire marshal, 1 Cedar Street with his secretary. He goes on fire calls, also helps the building department. Full-time planner we have, and 3 village attorneys. And we also have the village foundation, which is going to continue to grow, no doubt. Currently, the Board of Trustees, the work that we generate here, Board of Trustees, Zoning Board, Planning Board, Design Review Board, the budget is prepared here, lots of permits. What else is there? What am I forgetting? Taxes, yes, most important, right? I think that's
Parking stickers.
and parking permits, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me write that down. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot that goes on from day to day.
So the original village hall was at 27 Main Street,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
then,
And she's the only person who's in
I
this
was there.
building who was there.
right,
But you were there.
yeah, but not working there, right.
Pam is the
Mhm.
only person who's worked in that building.
Because the police department was right on the other side, on Newtown.
Yes.
So I worked there and Pam worked at
Mhm.
Village Hall.
And you can
And
go
then
out.
what happened at Village Hall, it was sold for this? Is that when you came to
Yes.
Cedar Street for a short
Right,
time?
temporarily, yes.
Okay.
You could walk out the back door of Village Hall and walk into the back door of the police department. Very, yeah, can you imagine that?
I know.
Marcos is thinking about that. Just walk in. And hopefully
Had one
the
cell, yeah.
And hopefully the cell door was open, because sometimes I would walk in and someone would have forgotten to lock the back door, and someone was in the cell, so you kind of hug the side and walk fast.
And the chief secretary was right across from the cell.
Oh, gosh.
It was very,
Sue Bird.
yeah, super,
Yeah.
it was really
Yes.
bad setup. And that whole thing moved to Cedar Street, which was really good, in
Much better.
1990. That's when it
Okay,
moved.
much better security then.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you may.
When did the village ever meet in the VFW building?
Yes, we did. I guess it probably was when we were at 1 Cedar Street, we met there. Is what I'm thinking, before we moved in here, that time. Do you remember, June?
No, I never got to meet them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
You remember,
I mean,
the police never met there.
The PBA met there.
They did?
Yeah, they had their meetings there,
We definitely did have meetings.
where London Jewelers is now.
Yes. And there were meetings above, well, 17 Newtown Lane above the police department. And there was a meeting room upstairs in Village Hall at 27 Main Street. We used to have meetings there too.
There was? Upstairs?
Mhm.
At 27 A?
Yes.
There was an upstairs?
You also met above the police station, right? Did you
Yes.
meet up there?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Good.
Very interesting.
Yep.
Love the history. Thanks,
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so
Pam.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next thing on, well, let's back up a second. Let's do the roll call, June.
Okey-doke. Mayor Jerry Larson,
Here?
Deputy Mayor Chris Minardi,
Here.
Trustee Sandra Melendez,
Here.
Trustee Sarah Amadon,
Here.
Trustee Carrie Doyle,
Here.
Village Attorney Lisa Petrillo.
Trill. Here.
Sorry.
Okay, great. I only have one announcement, I believe. It's the foundation's last Tuesdays at Maine will be this coming Tuesday, which is also known as Tumbleweed Tuesday. The Kiwanis Club is putting on a big fundraiser up there at the same time, where they're going to have a competition between the lifeguards and the fire department and police department. So it should be a fun time, so if anybody wants to come up, certainly welcome to do that.
Is that during the music or?
It'll be around 7 o'clock is when they're having the challenges.
Okay.
So the music starts at 6, just one band that night, and it'll end at 8 o'clock. So it's dark a little early now too, so it's good. The next thing on our agenda was a presentation by Ed Hollander, who has volunteered his time and his knowledge to provide us with a layout or schematic for Town Pond, for plantings around Town Pond, the way it used to be many years ago. So unfortunately, he canceled this morning for family reasons, so we're going to reschedule him probably for the October board meeting. Okay, and now we're going to enter into the work session, and we're going to talk about.
May I leave?
Yes, you're dismissed, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, Pam. You get an A.
My first one from you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So why don't we're going to talk about hybrid meetings. Lisa is going to talk to us about that.
Okay, just let me start off by saying I brought some handouts. They are very comprehensive. One of them is the most recent update, August 14, from NICOM, that's the New York, Convocation Committee of Mayors. I forget always what it stands for, but that's what it is. And it's guidance for the new law. And I've printed out a copy of the new law as well. So that's Public Officers Law 103-A. So, as you all probably know, we are currently still operating under the most recent extension of the COVID protocols that allow for virtual meetings. Those have been extended by Governor Cuomo and then again by Governor Hochul month to month at this point. It runs now currently until September 12th. There's talk about maybe it not being extended beyond that. But you never know, it's day to day, whatever it is, before she makes a decision, she's gonna look at the COVID levels and it may be extended further. So right now, you have still the option to go ahead and proceed that way. In fact, it's encouraged to do it because there's still COVID issues out there. As you may also be aware, in the beginning of the year, in January, the legislature passed some budget enactments, and included in the budget enactments were some amendments to various laws. Those included the public officers law. That amendment was approved in April, and that's what you have currently now. The current version of Public Officers Law 103-A, that's part of what's known as Open Meetings Law. And you all know Open Meetings Law requires that there be essentially that, open meetings, open to the public so the public can participate and can hear the deliberations and how government works and how you guys make decisions. The amendments allow for not virtual meetings, but hybrid meetings. So in other words, you all would still have to have a quorum present somewhere where the public can come and participate as if they've always participated in the public forum, giving comments, whatever it may be. But you also have the option of opening that same meeting up to virtual participation from the public. Let's go through actually the Open Meetings Law summary. We'll look at page 2. There's a list of numbers. Okay, so it tells you that if you choose to go with the hybrid virtual meetings, you must do it after passing a local law, after holding a public hearing. And it also requires that you create and conspicuously post a protocol for how all these virtual meetings are going to be held. And you're not supposed to deviate from that. So care should be given to that. It has to be posted on the village website. So any municipality that opts to do this must have a website. Believe it or not, some don't. But now you must. You must keep it up to date. It must be accessible to those that fall under the auspices of the Americans with Disabilities Act. You, again, must be physically present somewhere that the public can actually come and participate. The body and its members must have, a quorum present. You must still be present. If, however, you cannot be present because there are, and I'm going to read the exact words, extraordinary circumstances, you may be excused from being physically present there, as long as there's still a quorum of the body. Extraordinary circumstances is more broad than you would anticipate this to be, because it includes disability, illness without any specification of what kind of illness, caregiving responsibilities, which is quite broad, and any other significant or unexpected factor or event. Now you, in your local law and in your protocols, would define what would constitute an extraordinary circumstance. So there would be rules and you would know what things fall into that category. But it gives you more authority to expand that. The prior law, before it was amended, still allowed for video conference meetings. And what that really was addressed to was when someone that was part of the body was not able to be physically present, they could appear by video, but it had to be exigent circumstances. And as a legal term, that's a higher level than extraordinary circumstances. And you would also have to notify the public ahead of time that that was happening, and the public would have to be able to come to wherever that person was that was appearing by video. So if they were bedside at the hospital, people would have to be able to come there. If you were in your summer house, they would have to be able to come there too. This expands the ability for even board members to be absent, as long as there's physical quorum again, and you have extraordinary circumstances that apply to your situation. Let's see. You still have the requirement that any documents that are going to be presented, any resolutions that you're going to be considering, any kind of motions or proposals that you're going to be talking about be available to the public. Now, if the public is not present, you have to post those. So you have to post those 24 hours ahead of time so that they have that availability. You also have to be very specific to the public so they know when the meeting is happening, how they can access it virtually, and all of those details have to be posted on the website so that they're clear.
So it's 24 hours before?
24 hours for the documents.
Okay.
Okay, but the meeting notices you have to do pursuant to the usual and normal rules that you would do. Okay. Let's see. Still are required to do meeting minutes. But now you have to be very careful to expressly state on the record who is physically at the meeting and who is not at the meeting, which of the members of whatever body is meeting are there and who are not, who are appearing virtually. Okay. We talked about the public notice for the meeting. Yes, so you still have to identify, that it's going to be a video conference, how they can participate, when they can participate, and where they can find whatever documents are going to be discussed. And those should be all available on the website. Let's see, you still have to give the usual notice where the physical location is, so if they do want to come physically, they can. You have to now record all of the meetings that use video conferencing. Those recordings have to be posted or linked on the website, and that has to be done within 5 business days. And you have to keep those recordings, I think it's 5 years. So that's a brand new mandate you didn't have before because you didn't have this necessity to keep recordations of meetings. Okay, it's got to be real time. That goes without saying. If the people are participating, they have to be participating as if they were sitting in the room with you or here present in the room with you. And again, you have to maintain your official website, and it has to be accessible under the auspices of the 1990 Americans with Disabilities Act. That's the summary of what the new law provides. Nuance understanding of this is that you must now conduct, if you're choosing to do it by video conferencing, you must now conduct your public meeting as if you were doing your regular public meeting, but you must allow people who are participating by video conference to have the exact same experience as whoever it is that's there physically in the meeting. So you have to position the camera such that the view of all of you on the board is exactly the same as the view that everyone else would be having if they were in the audience. They have to know who's sitting there on the dais, whose names are there on the dais. You have to be able to see all of that. You have to establish protocols about comments. Time limits for comments. Are comments only going to be on the record by a video conference? Are you going to permit written comments to come in? How those are going to be accessed and where they're going to be kept as part of the record for this transcript. You have to ensure that there's no exclusion. Now, exclusion, because I've been a litigator for a long time, so when you do a revision to a law like this, the first thing that occurs to me is how do you enforce it and how can you bring a challenge to it? The law, up until now, believe it or not, up until 2020, there wasn't too much guidance of who exactly is aggrieved by a violation of open meetings law. In 2020, the court clarified that whoever is a member of the public that would otherwise have been able to come to the meeting or participate in the meeting is aggrieved if they are excluded. They don't have to show any special damages. Only the exclusion is enough. Exclusion to a public hearing is very difficult. It's open to public. People come. Exclusion to a virtual hearing is easy because if you have technological glitches, you've been excluded. So you have to make sure that all your technology is in working order. You have to make sure that everyone is trained, that they know how to unmute speakers, that they know how to share screens, that they know how to, all of that has to be implemented in a formal training protocol. So everybody knows that this is how to operate a video conference. I don't know what else, let's see. I think I covered most of that. I mean, of course, there's been some sensational news every once in a while. There's a video bombing incident. You have to prevent those too. So that's something with whatever video conferencing platform you decide to use. I know everybody likes Zoom, but there are others out there. There's Teams and there's other ones as well. So that's something you can explore. I don't know what other municipalities are using. I did look to see if I could do a survey. There's not much out there. There hasn't been much litigation, or there's not even an opinion interpreting this law yet. What you should know about this law is that it expires. It's got an end date of July 2024. So what it really is a test. The legislature and the governor are expecting a report in January that's going to tell them how the law is working and what changes should be made to the law. The expectation is that by July 2024, they will tinker with it, they will revise it, they will perfect it, and then there'll be new changes to the law, or they'll scrap it altogether. And that's about it, I think. If you have any questions, let me know.
So the public, they can just, if, let's say it's on the ZBA, they can just, the lawyer and the client or whoever can present without having to be present, right?
They most likely can present without having to be present. You would probably decide that in your protocols, if you would want presenters to be present or not. That's a special case. We're talking about the audience, the public participation. If they're the actual applicant,
Yeah, that's what.
yeah, you may be able to tinker with that and say, in our protocols, we want applicants in person, or we want them to have the option of being able to virtually present. The presentation, though, if they're there in public doing the presentation, whatever is being shown to you guys has to also be shown via the video conference, and most likely all your reactions as well. So you've got to think about where to position this camera so everybody gets exactly the same view. You know, and if they're presenting virtually and they're share screening, I don't know, maybe there's a split screen option where we can see your reactions and whatever it is that they're looking at. That's a technological discussion that you can have once you decide whether or not you want to go with this.
So keeping the video would have to be from all our boards, and it would have to be on,
As part of your adoption, if you were going to do a local law, you would have to address what happens with all the boards. You can say all the boards are going to do it this way, or you can say all the boards are going to be able to decide what they want to do. You have that option. That's what this law says.
well, I'm just talking about the storage, with it all, if, let's say everybody went to video conferencing, would
Yes.
all of those videos have to be stored for 5 years
Yes.
and be on our website?
Yes.
So does that,
That's not
what are
an
the
issue.
implications?
That would LTV be responsible for?
We have huge servers, so we can
Yeah.
store everything.
That's
and,
fine.
Yeah.
Does that work, Lisa, or does it have to be on our servers?
Can it be a link
Yeah,
to
that
Is
I
it like
don't
an
know.
evidence?
Yeah,
site?
that I don't know, because there's not been any exploration of the requirement yet, as far as I can
Right.
tell. It's still to be tested. Also, whether or not the posting of the recording triggers the limitations period for any challenge to, let's say, the ZBA, that's also not 100% clear. You know, and you may want to do the minutes that you usually do in conjunction with this recording, or you may not. You
Right.
know, that's a question to think about.
Are they verbatim, Lisa, if you do the hybrid?
Are they yeah, they would be the same as how you usually do them, yes, they would be. And, oh, you do summaries sometimes, don't you? The
Well,
minutes?
I haven't in a while
Okay.
because of the Zoom. So
Yeah.
they've been verbatim for a couple of years.
You would do them the way you've been usually doing them for public meetings. You don't have to, I think, my reading of this, and like I said, it's still very new, so there's not been too much interpretation. You don't need to, I think, do official minutes if you're also doing this recording. But you may want to do that,
Right.
because there has been a whole history of precedent where the filing of the minutes with the clerk triggers the limitations period for any challenge. You want to think about it that way too. You may
Gotcha.
want to keep that. You know, so you have a clear,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting, I mean, you'd like to be part of this pilot program
yeah.
so that you'd have input to make it better, or, but I just don't know what the implication, it's really, like Pam would have and June should have the most knowledge in this area to see, would this work better or not work better for,
Well, we've been doing Zoom for over 2 years now, so I don't think it'll make a difference. Can people call in?
No,
So it's not a call in?
No calls.
It has to be Zoom?
Video.
Or?
it doesn't have to be Zoom, it has to be video.
Video,
Yeah.
you mean, okay.
It has to be as if they were physically present. So if they're physically present, they can hear and they can see and they can speak. So they'd have to be able to do that as well.
All right.
and LTV is set up for that.
Really?
We've seen that at our regular board meetings. It is helpful for the ZBA and the appointed boards to use this technology because, and it's good for our residents that they don't have to
Yeah.
appear before every
The applicants.
every
the
hearing.
Architects, the attorneys, the neighbors.
So I guess,
It saves them money too, because if the applicant, which would be a village resident, has to pay their attorney or their architects to travel from the city, then, you know, they have to pay for that.
Right.
And, you know, they pay for 5 hours of travel time and 20 minutes of
Right.
speaker time, you know, so I think some attorneys would like this. However, there's a lot of media upgrades that we would need to see if we can do, because you
Well,
lost me on some of this.
Like I said, you know, you don't want to exclude the public, and I'm not saying you would intentionally do that, but there can be inadvertent exclusions. If your tech is not working right, if the person who's speaking, for whatever reason, you can't hear them, that's exclusion. Then what happens? You do the whole meeting over again.
What if that person has trouble? For example, so-and-so is calling into a ZBA meeting and they're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, and then, will they say that it's my difficulty or it's your difficulty? I don't know. That's case by case. And yeah, if it's their fault, but you've done everything possible and no one else has had an issue, then okay. But like I said, it's case by case.
And on the other hand, we could go through all of this, and then in 2024, the governor
They may
decides
change.
not to do it.
Yeah.
We have the equipment ready. I mean, we've done that over the winter.
Would we have to use that at our work sessions as well, or can that be specified in our law that, well, no, there's no public interaction at work
There's
sessions.
no public interaction at work
So
sessions.
that answers that.
Could the board remain live and then give the authority to ZBA to see what they want to do? DRB or
Yeah.
planning?
You may be able to do that. Let me look into it, because I know
May want to do that.
you can pass the local law that says we are going to do public meetings, however, this board will do, I think you may be able to do that. Let me check.
All right. What does everybody think?
I think we should do it. So do we need new software or new?
No, we're ready to, we have all the equipment necessary. We've been working with LTV for the last year to
Okay.
get ready to do this if we wanted to.
Okay.
So we have everything.
Pam, what do you think?
It's fine. I mean, we've been doing it for
Okay.
so long, anyway.
I have one more question. In the prior law, if you're not gonna be attending or you're gonna be attending from somewhere else, you have to be in a place that is public, that the public can come. Is that still,
No,
okay?
no. No.
But we need a local law first.
You have to have a local law, and you have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to start working on the law?
Sure.
Did
And
you
then we
put this, is this on our website? So,
No, I was going to print it out and hand it, give it to Chris and.
So the benefits would be that, like Chris said, that people don't have to travel into the meeting. It saves time.
Yeah.
Applicants from
Applicants.
whatever boards, or I guess for the village board meeting, I see this more of a benefit to the boards, the ZBA, the DRB, and
Yeah.
you know, because there's applications that are either get postponed, or people can't make it, or who knows why,
Yeah.
and it allows those files to move and save some money. As for the village board meetings, I'm happy. I mean, I think it's better for the boards, but I'm fine with all.
And so, just to clarify, so as a board member, if we're not in attendance to the meeting, can we call in?
No.
No.
Video conference only.
Video,
No calling.
no, I mean, video conference.
Video conference only.
Okay.
Yeah.
If for some reason.
Yes, and you'd probably, as part of your protocols, have to establish, what procedure whereby you'd let everybody know that you weren't going to be attending, because that has to be noticed as part of the notice for the meeting, and they have to know. I don't know how scheduling works, if two board members are going to be out at the same time, you'd have to set up a procedure to do that.
Okay.
Because the quorum still has to be there physically.
Yes.
And then the
Yes.
person who's absent has to have
There has to be.
in order to participate.
Yes, and I don't know if you may want to, as part of your protocol, because you have to identify who's not there.
Right.
And was appearing by video conference. And you can say that they have a whatever extraordinary circumstance. I don't know if you have to give any detail regarding that.
Okay.
That might be something that you write into your protocols.
All right, good.
Okay.
All right, so if everybody's in favor, we'll have Lisa start
Sure.
writing up a law, and then
Maybe we'll present it back to the board.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not really that different from what we're doing now, right? Or
Not really.
what's the biggest change?
Well, right now, we would be allowing both hybrid, so it's not Zoom and it's not in person, it's both.
And
at
we
the
allow
same
people to
time.
call in. Right.
Yeah, that's the biggest
So-
change, is that it's not all virtual any longer. It has to be public plus virtual.
Okay.
see what we're doing now at our regular meetings is basically what we'll be doing.
Yeah.
It's just that the government, it's eventually it's gonna go away, so we have to, if we wanna continue to do that, we have to create a law
Right.
to do it, so.
I think it sounds.
I think it's good. All right, so we'll do that. And then the only other thing we have on here is the Lumber Lane and Railroad Avenue parking pricing. So I guess a couple of years ago, we started using the paid parking system, and for non-village residents. So village residents right now are able to park at the Railroad Avenue parking unlimited for 7 days. There's no fee for them. But if you are not a village resident, then you have to pay a fee to park there. And currently it's on Lumber Lane, close to the train station, it's $15 per day. And same at Railroad Avenue up by Fresno up there. It's all $15 a day parking. What we've noticed though is it's not being used very much. So the fee within the parking lot is $10 per day. It's a little further walk to get to the parking lot, so that's why we did the closer spots to the train were 15 and the ones further away were 10. But again, it's not being utilized a lot, so I was thinking maybe we should drop it to 10 and see if that increases usage. We also created a permit system, so people can buy a year-round permit for, I think it's $400 a year. So that's, how many permits do we have for that? Do you know?
It's not a lot.
Not a lot, okay.
And how long,
Not a
how
lot
long do you
meaning
park your
what?
car there for?
You
if
can
get the
park-
permit?
14 days, I think it is?
Yes, up to 14.
Up to 14 days.
So how many permits did we sell?
I don't know,
5, 20, 100?
maybe 25, 30.
Yeah. And when we first took office, there were about 60, but they were paying nothing, minimal. So we upped those and we lost some people. And then we went daily parking. And again, and we also reduced village residents don't have to pay anything. And that wasn't like that when they had to pay as well. So this is good for the residents, it's good for our budget, but maybe we could increase a little more revenue by lowering the price a little. So that was my thought.
Do you want to set a limit on those streets? Up to 14 days?
Isn't it already? Because it was
They
the
don't say on
same.
the streets.
On Railroad Avenue, it was, I think it was 7 days. Well, we'll check it.
Yeah.
If there's no limit, we should put a limit on it, same as maybe in the parking lot, 14 days.
Definitely, limit.
Okay. Everybody's in favor?
Yes.
We'll give it a shot, see if it,
How will people know? Will we,
well, when they go to park, it'll be, when they go to their app, it'll say how much it is per day. And I'm sure that's probably what happens is people park and then they pull up the app and they're like, $15 a day, I'm not parking here. And then they go park somewhere else. All right. That's all I have. That's all we have for our work session, so. That concludes our meeting. Can I get a motion to close?
motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Meeting is closed.